another Focus on Fundamentals, and today is part 2 of our Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star. Okay, here's our wonderful tool. All the instructions are included. So last week we started with cutting our strips, sewing them together, layering them, and doing our cutting. Feel free to go back to last week's video if you need a little bit of a refresher. We cut our triangles and we placed them on. Today we're going to go ahead and sew those on, create our little units, and then we're going to do some trimming. And you see that little stop sign right there? He's important, and I'll show you why. Okay? So let's get started. So once we had our units cut, we sewed on the side triangles. Now we have to trim, or press rather. Let's press them first. And if you look, they're going in opposite directions. One tip that I'll give you is when we press, we want all of our seams to end up going in the same direction, and there's a trick to that. So if you put your units on your ironing board like this and take a look at them, our green one is going from Mexico to Maine. Okay, think geographically, we're going Mexico to Maine. And this is our B unit that we used. Our A unit is going from Florida to Oregon. We don't want to go from Florida to Oregon. We want to go Mexico to Maine. So to get that accomplished, we're going to turn our A unit over so that everybody is going Mexico to Maine. So that means that our B units will get pressed to the triangle, and our A units will get pressed to the diamond unit. Okay, very, very important. Because when we start to put these together, everything is going to nest, and I'll show you. So as long as we have everything pressed correctly, everything's going to work nicely for you when you go to sew. Okay, so we have these all pressed. Everybody is going in the same direction. And here's where we stop. Because right now, if you put these together and you're getting so excited, you want to see how it's going to turn out. These are all oversized. They will not match. You will not be happy. So here's where our stop sign comes into play. Okay, Linda, could you hand me my cutter? Thank you. So here's where we're going to trim. We're going to trim our units. And we're going to use our Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star tool to do that. We are making 6-inch units. I'll turn this around. Hopefully you guys can see this. We are going to take this 6-inch diamond guideline right here, and we're going to put that tip at the tip of our unit. Like I said, everything is oversized. So you're going to put that at the tip. Those diamond guidelines are going to sit right on your seam lines. Okay? And you can see it's too big. So I'm going to turn it around so that I can trim it. And if you're right-handed, you're going to point it to like 1 o'clock. If you're left-handed, turn it to 11 o'clock. And you can still get the same cut. Okay. So I'm going to put the 6-inch guideline right on our seam lines. And we're going to cut and cut. Okay, now we have a perfectly trimmed unit. And I will do that for our green piece as well. Put the 6 right at the tip. Make sure those guidelines are on your seam lines. And if for some reason they are not on your seam lines, let's say they're a little bit too big. That means your seam allowance is off. If you can't get it in there at all, your seam allowance is off. That's why it's important to always test your 1/4 inch and make sure you have a good 1/4 inch seam so that these will nest and match with the tool. Okay. Once these are trimmed, now we can sew them together. And when you sew them together, you are going to start sewing at the tip. So you may want to use a leader as you go through your sewing machine because you don't want that tip to get chewed up by your machine. And the reason we start there is because the tip is the most important part of this. We want everything to match nicely so we can have a good point. You will also match and nest that seam. When you do that, those points come together nicely. The back end will always come together nicely. It may be a little off at the bottom end. That's okay. That's going to get trimmed later. But right now, what you're going to do is take this to your sewing machine, make sure that's nested, and sew your good 1/4 inch all the way down. And you'll do that for all.
Oh, you're back on.
Okay. So once those are sewn together, you'll have a unit that looks like this. Your points match, your points have nested, everything's good, but see how much fabric we have? It's all oversized. And I didn't bring that up here. Okay. Let me get a ruler real quick. Hang on just a second. So one thing we can do is we can go ahead and sew this together. Okay, you'll have your dog ears and things like that. But one tip that I have for you is to do what we call a sliver trim. We need to get rid of these points, but I guarantee that this is not exactly perfect. So if you take a ruler, preferably the Tucker trimmer, but any ruler that has a 45-degree line on it, and you're going to set that so that that 45-degree line goes right through that seam line, and you're going to get right up in that corner. Not too far, but right up in that corner. And just do a little sliver trim.